podcast. Spoiler, there are none. My name is Evelyn, and today I'm speaking with Jessie, who lost her husband to cancer. In this episode, we discuss dealing with cancer treatment, dealing with a spouse who doesn't necessarily want to know how sick they are, and we also talk a little bit about the impact losing a spouse can have on your family. I hope you find something helpful in this episode, and please enjoy. If you're ready, we can just dive right on in.
Sure.
Awesome. So tell me about your husband.
Okay. My husband's name was Bill. We met 12 years ago playing co-ed soccer. He was very attractive, athletic guy. He was a guy's guy, definitely kind of life of the party type. We called him Party Boy. Life of the party, can talk to anyone, total bullshitter, can talk about anything with anybody. Everybody loved him. Athletic, soccer player, hockey player, avid golfer, healthy guy. When I started dating him, when we got engaged, people kind of couldn't believe it, and I didn't understand why. Like, why? Oh, someone finally, Bill finally settled down or whatever. And I don't know if it's because he finally found someone to put up with his bullshit or whatever. But yeah, we got married 2.5 years into our relationship and got pregnant pretty quick. We have two girls. Bill was definitely still retained this like party boy status after the kids were born, which became a bit of a thorn in the relationship. He didn't have a problem per se, but it was like anytime we would go out, I was the designated driver. And I think that's kind of a mom wife thing in general, maybe, but like I grew up and continued to, he used to say, men just want women to stay the same, and women want the men to change. And so, anyways, great guy, hard worker. He was an electrician, barely ever missed a day of work, very reliable there. He was a reliable guy. He was a good dad. But, I also think he was one of those guys, if he never became a father, he would have been okay with that too. So he loved his kids, but, had kind of a short fuse, not in a bad way, but just kind of like I've had enough way. All around good guy, well liked. Do you want me to go like right into his, he had cancer, so I don't know if you want me
Yeah,
to
if
go into
if
that.
you if you like, yeah.
So yeah, we were married, I don't think what was it? Almost, yeah, seven, right before our 7-year wedding anniversary. He had been having like one day he came home with Tums, and I didn't think anything of it. Like he'd been having
Hmm.
stomach aches, and that kind of slowly progressed into him not wanting to eat, and then having like random aches and pains, and then ultimately like losing weight. And finally I said, one day I came home and I said, "You look gray and skinny. Go
Mm.
to the doctor." And they checked him out, took an x-ray of his belly, did blood and urine, and he was just a little anemic. That's all they could find.
Mm.
So they said follow up with GI. It's probably an ulcer. He was only 40, had just turned 40. And then a few weeks later, it was just progressively worse, and he hadn't gotten in with the GI doctor yet. So we went to the ER. And by trade, I'm an MRI technologist. And so we got there, and they once again took blood and urine and said, follow up with GI. And I said, can we get some imaging? And I said, because he's lost weight, if all these things are related, this isn't a good situation. And so they did. And that's when we found his cancer. He ended up having metastatic stomach cancer. It was already in his spine, his ribs, his liver, and his lymph nodes. So he ended up living about 28 months after diagnosis
Mm.
and never complained a single day in that entire time. He was like, I couldn't believe it. And he never once thought he was dying. Even the day before he died, the oncologist came to see us in the hospital, and he said, "All right, what's next?" I think that's how he made his way through, is just like, he always just kind of powered through everything. And I think he kept himself very distracted and just never believed the worst. I'm the opposite. I knew from the day he was diagnosed that it would be a terminal thing because I medical background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe how strong he was through the whole thing. He was a pretty amazing guy in that aspect for sure. And funny.
What was it like for you, like going through that experience with him, with like your knowledge of medically what was actually happening versus his attitude of like, no, I'm gonna be fine. What was that like for you?
Frustrating and heartbreaking because I knew the whole time. I read everything that there was to read. I did all the research. I joined groups on Facebook to learn. I actually found this very specific group of women. They found me actually, and it was on some like gastric esophageal cancer group with people of all ages. And this one woman reached out to me and she said, "You got to join this other group." And it was specifically for women under the age of 50 whose husbands had stage 4 gastric or esophageal cancer. And I learned so much from that. So I was very well aware of what was going on, but I had to lie. And I'm not a liar. I have a terrible poker face and I'm an open book. So to keep all of this from him just to because I knew he didn't want to hear it, A, and B, he couldn't hear it because that would have broken him, I think. That was really hard. And I did tell other people, I said, don't, this isn't common knowledge, but this is a terminal thing, or most likely. And he continued to play hockey and golf for like a whole year after he was diagnosed. And so people are like, he's doing great. And from the outside, everyone was like, wow, you're beating it. And I had a Caring Bridge
Hmm.
account that I wrote in, monthly-ish, every couple months, depending on what was going on. And if you read between the lines, I didn't come out and say anything because I couldn't. His family was also, I think they were all a little bit in denial. Either they don't want to hear it. My family's the opposite,
Hmm.
where we're like realists. What can we do? Like tell me everything I need to know. And they're like, nope, I don't, nope, he's doing great. Right now he's doing great. And that's what we're going to believe. And so I had to live in this weird limbo between the truth and
Hmm.
disbelief.
Did you have people around you, like in your immediate sphere, that you could talk to about it?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's
My whole
good.
family, some of my best friends, his best friend's wife and I became very close.
Hmm.
And she's a physical therapist and also a total realist. And then she would update her husband so he could kind of tell. They had a group of like 5 or 6 really close guy friends from like grade school.
Yeah.
And so they kind of knew what was going on too behind the scenes. Because Bill would just be like, yes, everything's good. Everything's great. I'm kicking its ass, Like, yes, I definitely had, and my group on Facebook too, which
Hmm.
was the godsend.
Good. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you mentioned like right up until like the day before, he was like now, like what do we do? Like I'm good. Like, are you comfortable sharing like what
Yeah. Yep.
that day was like for you?
Yeah.
Like,
It was awful. I knew it was coming. He had like I watched his lab work and everything very closely. I knew we were in between treatments, trying to get on like some clinical trial. The second year that he was diagnosed, it was just failure after failure after
mhm,
failure. Try this, try that. Then you'd get horrible reactions, spend a week in the hospital. But then in the end, I started noticing he got what's called ascites. So his belly started filling up with fluid, and I knew that that was cancerous fluid, and oftentimes something that happens when you're going downhill.
mhm,
So I saw that, and then he was telling me, like he wasn't urinating. I hardly went to the bathroom today. It's bright orange. And I'm like, oh my God, his kidneys are failing. We finally, it was a little bit after Christmas of 2023 that, I had called his oncologist and I'm like, he's in pain. We're having a hard time managing it. It was kind of like near his liver. And so he went and was admitted into the hospital, and he spent his last 2 weeks in the hospital where he barely left the bed unless it was to go to the bathroom. And he just slowly deteriorated, became more confused, slept a lot more. towards the end, he'd sleep with his eyes half open and his mouth half open, and people would come and go. And really, we'd only allow family and then his close friends to come visit. It was really hard on me because I was not only I was switching with my in-laws. We were taking turns. I spent like 3 nights in a row there, and then my mother-in-law came and spent a night, and then I spent a night, and then my sister-in-law spent a night, and then I spent a night because I was like, I can't not see my kids for however long this is going to go on for.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see him too, and we didn't want to spend every night on this cot in the hospital, you know. But for the first time ever, my relationship with my in-laws was very strained, and that stressed me out too. So I was playing like trying to make this make sense. So I was there all the time. I was doing a lot of things because you don't know the outcome. You don't know if they're going to come out of it, if they're going to come home, if they're going to die in the hospital. And so he was coming to the end of his insurance, his long-term disability. And so it was about to run out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting in the hospital trying to figure out what we were going to do for his health. So I was like meeting with a friend who is an insurance person, you know, organizing medical bills. I was studying for something at the time. And then, you know, taking care of him, talking to the nursing, the doctors, the staff, trying to manage that and make the best decisions for him. Leaving, going to the kids at the same time, my friends and family were putting together this benefit for him. So I was like giving people input on that. And then I was the scheduler. So for who can come and visit, everyone was messaging me. When's a good time? When's a good time? When's a good time? So you're like, every minute. And then I'd leave, and I remember running up and down the stairs in the building that he was in, because I'm like, I have all this nervous energy. I need to like, so I would go up and down like 20 flights of stairs just to get out, you know, my nervous energy. And half the time you're sitting there and he's asleep, you
Yeah.
know. So I don't know, but it was very uncertain, and so I was juggling. It was also hard because I knew what was happening. And I knew we were running out of time, and his family just wanted, they hung on to every little bit of hopeful information that the doctors would tell them and
Mm-hmm.
think that he was going to turn around. Like the kidney doctor would come in and they'd be like, they said this. And I'm like, that's just the kidneys. That's not everything else. So my mother-in-law, I don't want to say we started butting heads, but we didn't talk much and there was tension. Like I
Is it
remember
like
one,
one of those things where like she was looking for you to be like he's gonna be okay, and you couldn't give her that information, and so is that kind of
I think she felt I was giving up on him. I think
mm,
but I was just being realistic, and I read all the hard things. I'm medical, so I watched his labs every day get worse and worse. And then he went for a procedure and it failed. There were too many tumors in his stomach. They tried to put a stent in his liver, bile duct, whatever, to open so he could digest and whatever, helping his liver function, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't get. He was down for this MRCP forever, and they had to sedate him for his MRI. He was in too much pain, and like it was just. I think they didn't want to give up on him. And at one point, I said, "Hey, maybe," and I was trying to help. I'm like, maybe we can get him a feeding tube because he's not eating. And she kind of blew up and was like, absolutely not. I want him to be able to eat. And I'm like, you don't understand. You can still eat with a feeding tube. And it was just weird. It was really, really weird and tense. And one day she walked in and she said, Jess, if you want to see your girls, they're with your dad. So I suggest you go pick them up. And that's all she said to me. She sat down and didn't look at me. And I quietly gathered all my things and just gave him a quick update on what had happened that day. And I left. And I'm like, we have a very loving, we're back to being wonderful now. But I was like, oh my God. So I wanted to say, hey, I think the hardest thing for me, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place here, but the hardest thing for me was I knew he was dying and I wanted to get him home. He
mhm,
wanted to go home. And they wanted him to stay there because they thought they could fix him. And I knew our best chance of him seeing more people and being the most comfortable he can be would be at on hospice care at home. And I ended up having to call a family meeting with the whole medical team so they could basically say, he's dying. Because, like I said, they would meet with, when I wasn't there, the medical team would do rounds
Mhm.
and meet with them and tell them these things. And like I said, they grasp these tiny little bits of hope, which I get. It's their only son. You know, they have two daughters, but like it's a child, your child.
Yeah.
It was a different kind of grief for them. And so I get it, but it was gut wrenching for me. So what happened in the end was finally after this meeting, we decided to put him on hospice and that he would come home the next day. So I spent that last night in the hospital with him and it was awful. He got up, he had to go to the bathroom and he hadn't walked at all, but he had to go to the bathroom and he got up and he was just full of fluid from the waist down, just
Mhm.
puffy and could barely walk. But he suddenly had to have a bowel movement and he got up and like went to the bathroom and I had to help him and then I had him stand and I was just trying to like clean him up and get a fresh gown on him and all this stuff and then I think he couldn't stand anymore and he was confused and he started walking back to the bed quickly and I was like he had a walker but he was carrying it and he
Mhm.
stumbled and he fell and I couldn't get him off the floor. I was alone. I had to call the staff. It was like it was awful. And then the next day he barely was awake all day and we were rushing to organize everything that needed to be organized to get him home. An ambulance ride, the hospice bed, the sign having the medical team sign off on everything, me to sign all the waivers, like it was I had to meet with a social worker and like the all the doctors and like, you know, everyone else was just coming and visiting and we were rubbing his legs and talking to him, but he was asleep. And long story short, the ambulance came towards the end of the day. He was in a lot of pain. There's this weird limbo between being an inpatient and being in hospice care. There's
Mhm.
this handoff of care. And so they like quick gave him meds to get him through the ambulance ride, but then we couldn't do anything else until we got to the house. And I hadn't met the hospice nurses. I didn't even know if we had a bed in the house yet, but we
Mhm.
were dead set on getting him home. Ambulance ride is about 30 minutes and he was just in pain the whole time. And I was just like leaning over and holding him and telling him like, oh look, we're driving past this and oh there's where you played hockey and I said we only have 20 more minutes and he was just so uncomfortable but couldn't speak
Mhm.
and just kept trying to adjust and readjust and his legs kept falling off the side of the gurney and it didn't seem worth it. It would have been better almost if we had either done it sooner, because this is what I was trying to avoid,
Yeah.
or keeping him in the hospital. But anyways, we got him home and the bed wasn't even ready yet. It has to inflate for like an hour. So we put him into this recliner that we had and he died an hour and a half later. The ambulance pulled up with all of the lights on and it was dark as January. And he's being wheeled up our long front sidewalk. And our neighbors who we don't get along with are like peering out the window. My girls, my in-laws live next door to us and they ran out because they didn't know they were how old are 7 and 6. They ran out onto my in-laws porch and they're like, hi, Dad, and they're
Mhm.
waving and he's doesn't know what's going on. And I wanted to get him home too so they could see him and understand what was going on because we kept them in the dark quite a bit. But, anyways, before we could even get him settled, and I was meeting with the hospice nurses and they were teaching me how to give him medication to keep him comfortable. And they were talking about this, what do they call it? When they look hungry for air, she was talking about giving him morphine or whatever and I glanced over at him and I'm like, is he hungry for air right now? Because his breathing kind of started getting deeper and like he was really
Mhm.
trying hard. And then everyone kind of stopped what they were doing and we realized what was happening. And a couple breaths later, that was it. His whole family and myself. His immediate two sisters and his parents and myself were there with him. And then he stayed for a while. I kind of, his mother-in-law cleaned him up, or my mother-in-law and his sisters cleaned him up and dressed him. I went next door to be with my kids and tell them what was going on. And then we called people and had some of his best friends and uncles and aunts come over to see him before he was taken away.
Hmm.
So he stayed till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and he died at about, oh, got up at around 6 o'clock at night. And I kind of just spent my time going back and forth between my dad stayed for a while. He was there too. And he drove my car from the hospital back to the house. Yeah, that was awful. It was awful. Watching someone take their last breath is fucking terrible. And you feel really helpless because
Yeah.
you know there's just nothing you can do. But then when it's over, you're kind of like, okay, you know, time to
Yeah.
start feeling, time to start processing, whatever.
Yeah. I remember, so when my husband died, he died in a hospital. And then I
Hmm.
remember like going out into the parking garage and being like, now what?
Yeah,
Do I
right,
go home? I don't want to be home. Like, what am I
right.
supposed to do? I eat? I haven't eaten and like no, I don't want to eat, there's just this sense and this feeling of like okay, like now what? And
Yeah.
did you experience that also?
I don't know about yours. I knew it was coming for a while. So I had a lot of time to process what it would be like and what I would do with my time.
Hmm.
And I lost my mom when I was 29 to suicide, and she was sick with depression for a long time. So it wasn't like a total shock. And I kind of went into similar in a way where you're like, you knew it was a possibility. And if this happened, how would I handle it? I kind of go into robot mode and I'm like, I got to get all this stuff done. I got all these things to do. And so the next day, ended up sleeping that night at my in-laws' house. I said, I need to sleep. I haven't slept in 24 hours and I need to be with my kids now. So I wasn't here when they took Bill away. And here's a weird thing. So when my mom died, she hung herself in the basement with the tie from her bathrobe. And my dad found her. They're still married. And when I came home, back home from telling my girls, and after he was all cleaned up, so his jaw kept kind of falling open a little bit because obviously he's not going to hold it closed anymore. And my father-in-law had something propped under his chin to keep his jaw closed, and it was the tie from my bathrobe. It was
Hmm.
rolled up into like a little roll, and I'm like, what?
Like of all the
What?
things.
Of all the things, and that was upstairs in my bedroom. Like, how did you even go up and decide on that? Of all the things in my entire household. So, anyways, that was like a weird
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So you said this was January. Was this January of last year?
Yeah, January
Okay,
10th,
so you're
2020.
you're you're just over a year then.
Hmm.
How is that how's that been for you?
Okay. Like I said, there's this like I've read about it, anticipatory grief, where you have time to process it. And I also mentioned my mom, so this isn't my first go around with, an immediate family member or someone very close dying. I am also put your head down and power through it, get all the shit done. The first 6 months were just spent. I took 3 months off work, and the first 6 months were just spent. I worked out 5 days a week and painted a wall in my bedroom and sorted through his things and reorganized and had my dad over to fix stuff and made a bajillion phone calls. I'm sure you can relate to how long it takes to button everything up afterwards. It is so frustrating. And then spend time with the kids. It's been okay. I'm not like an overly emotional person. I think I feel, but I keep it inside. I think a lot. I'm very self-aware. So it's been okay for me. We also struggled a lot in our marriage. No cheating, no lying, nothing like that. It was just a disconnect.
Mhm.
after the kids were born. Like I said, he didn't want to grow up, and I was like, why aren't you growing up? We just had a disconnect, which sucked. And we both truly, genuinely loved each other, but we probably didn't have the same love languages, or, we just didn't know how to show each other
Mhm.
the right way. And so that, we'd have, it was a roller coaster. So in the back of my head, I was like, okay, silver lining to this would
Mhm.
be to find someone who really fits
Mhm.
me as who I am now. He fit when we met,
Yeah.
and I think we could have made it work, if we really, really both tried. So yeah, I think I 6 months in, I got on the dating apps, and first person I went out on a date with, I dated till just a couple weeks ago, actually, but I think I forced it. He
Mhm.
was perfect for me on paper, and I really wanted it to work, but the chemistry wasn't quite right. That when I broke up with him, I cried for a week, and I
Mhm.
barely cried when Bill died. I think that brought up a lot of the grief that I had buried down deep. It's in there. I'm always asking people, like, do you think I'm a cold-hearted bitch? And they're like, no, no, I think you're good. I've known you for however many years. I've never thought that about you. I'm like, I just have a hard time processing emotions, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think especially things like grief where it's like it's this kind of big encompassing thing that like the idea of tackling it head on is like that's not even possible. So I'm not gonna try, like
Mhm.
yeah, or at least that's
Oh,
what.
I've read so much about, the stages of grief, and like, but then you see a chart of someone who writes like the stages of grief, and you expect you to be like, you know, bargaining and anger and all these things in order, and it's like, no, it's like this total shit show of like scribbles and lines going all over the place. And I've never really like broken down crying in the middle of the grocery store or anything like some people say that they do. I haven't had that experience, but it's complicated.
Hmm.
It's really complicated. And then when you've had time to process it before it even happened, and then when there was some issues in your marriage, it
Hmm.
makes it even more complicated because you're like, why am I not, some days, why am I not more sad? Or, there are moments where I'm like, I just want him back. And then there are moments where I'm totally fine being alone. And then there are moments where I'm lonely as hell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think I actually I write poetry and I've been working on a collection that like some of them are poems that I wrote for my husband like when we started dating and then some of them are poems that I've written since he passed. And like one of the things I've been working on is what order I want them to go in. And
mm,
I'm finding out that like I don't want it to be linear because like if it's a metaphor for love and grief, like it's not linear. It's not
no.
like the way that you experience isn't linear. So like why would I put them in linear order,
Yeah,
That's actually been really healing to work on
that's
that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've thought about journaling.
Hmm.
I am totally addicted to scrolling, especially
Hmm.
once you join those dating apps. You're just like, you become almost obsessed
Hmm.
about it. And then you scroll through everyone and you're like, well, fuck, I didn't like any of that. And then you start going back through and well, and then you get really discouraged because you're like, why can't I just find my person right now? Like very
Where are they?
frustrating.
Are they here now? Like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, did you join this week? Then you have one that you think you got on the hook for a minute and then they ghost you and you're like, what? I I don't know.
It's like I'm
I
awesome.
feel like I'm a catch, first of all. I have
Seriously.
my shit together. I have a dead husband, but I don't split. Like I didn't go through a divorce where I was like had to take all the finances and split it down the middle, and like I
Hmm.
own a home, I own a vehicle, I have a job, I'm in good shape. Like I'm
Hmm.
have a good personality, but I'm like, where's my fucking person now? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like honestly dating as a widow could be like its own topic, like, because it's complicated,
Oh yeah. And I use my in-laws a lot to watch the kids. But when I started dating, I started getting a babysitter because I couldn't be like, I didn't tell them I was dating for about 5 months, maybe. And then he started coming to the house and he met the girls. So I knew they would talk. And so I
Mm-hmm.
had to tell them. But then I just refused to have them watch the kids for me while I went and, you know, hung out with a man that wasn't their son. It
Yeah.
just didn't feel right. I never got the like feeling I was cheating or anything. I know some people say I feel like I'm cheating on my
Mm-hmm.
spouse. I never got that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's real interesting.
I think for me, like, so it was just 8 years. I'm just past 8 years. And like those first 2 years, like, I didn't feel like I was cheating, but like there was definitely a feeling of like, this person's great. I miss my husband. They're great. I enjoy their company. I like spending time with them, but really I just miss my husband.
Yeah.
That didn't feel fair to them. It didn't feel fair to me.
Yep. I think that's part of the reason I let this last relationship go on too long too, is because like I said, he was wonderful. He was everything I thought that I was looking for, but he didn't, when I went out in public, he was polar opposite of Bill. He's kind of a unique guy, real quirky, and Bill was like the cool babylicious athlete, and then
Hmm.
Matt's like glasses and in the medical field and like I said, goofy and quirky and kind of awkward. So I would get really like he's not acting the way Bill would act in this situation, and oh, that was an awkward comment. And it would make me feel really uncomfortable where he was holding his own. He was doing just fine, but he
Yeah.
wasn't doing it the way Bill would do it. And there were some things he did way better than Bill did, like
Hmm.
some things within the relationship, but like in public and in social situations and some things with my kids, I was just like,
Mm,
it
yeah.
just it
Yeah.
didn't work. And I told myself, you're going to get it right this time or righter.
Yeah. Speaking of your kids, how's this been for them?
It's hard to say. It seems good, but when I told them that he died, I went next door and I said, "Girls, come here." And they knew something was up. But I
Hmm.
said, Daddy was sick in the hospital for a long time, and they did see him once in the hospital when he was still alert. He was a little confused, but they did see him in a
Hmm.
hospital bed with oxygen on and whatever. But I said, Dad fell asleep and he didn't wake up. And one of the girls, my oldest, screamed and screamed, and she went, "Mommy, mommy, mommy, mommy," and the other one ran out of the room and plugged her ears and was like,
Hmm.
"Don't talk about it." So they had completely different reactions. Yeah, and it's kind of continued on like that. Like the older one, Robin, she is inquisitive and will say, "Remember when Dad used to do this?" and "Remember when Dad used to do that?" And then my younger one, Quinn, I'll talk about him and she'll say, "I don't want to talk about it." Or she'll just leave the room. Or there'd be like a sad song that came on the radio and she'd say, "Can you turn this, the channel?" And this
Hmm.
is when she was only, 6. She's 7 now and Robin's 9. And she's still, I don't know, she's avoidant, very avoidant, but they don't really talk about it a lot. They
Hmm.
are distracted, distracted kids worrying about their toys and their classmates, and they don't really, I don't know how much they think about it, probably more than I know. I
Hmm.
have pictures up, and like the other day I was dusting and I still have Bill's urn in the living room, and I pick him up
Hmm.
and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna clean you up," and I move him and then I dust, and I was like, I'm like, "This is Dad, right?" Like I'm just And Quinn, my younger one, she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you want to hold him?" she's like, she's like, "No," and she like ran out of the room. I'm like, "Okay, too much."
Not there yet.
I'm like, I don't know how to, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know.
It's a
It's
strange thing to navigate.
it is. I can't
Hmm.
imagine losing a parent at their age.
Right?
Like when you don't even quite understand death. I don't know.
Yeah.
So complicated for their little brains.
So you'd mentioned like you had had, you know, quite a bit of time to like prepare like emotionally and like the preemptive grief and all of that. Like did you were you able to have like conversations around what he wanted after he died? Like, he's in an urn, so like clearly cremation. But like was he open to talking about those things?
This is really funny. So no, I did bring it up a couple times, and I was like, we've never talked. I just tried to do it in a way where like I wasn't like, you're gonna die, because he was never gonna die in his
Oh, of
mind.
course.
So I'd be like, you know what? You're sick now. I just can't believe we've never talked about this before. I'll go first. This is what I want. I want to be cremated and scattered or whatever.
Mhm.
Now you go. And his family has a very very Scottish heritage. And Bill has always been fascinated with like Norse mythology, mermaids, Vikings, da 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 da. So he said, I want a Viking funeral. I want you to float me out into the water, shoot a burning arrow, and, whatever, burial by sea. And I'm like, okay, but really? And he's like, no, that's what I want. And I'm like, okay. So then I bring it up again a few months later, same thing. Then I come to find out he told a few people that. And I thought it was just, like, I mean, I think it was him just being like, that's just how he was. He
Hmm.
never, if he didn't want to give you a straight answer, he just wouldn't. So this is what happened. We knew also that like the cheapest way to do things was to have someone take the body directly from the house to the crematorium. If you go through a funeral home, they upcharge you like crazy.
Hmm.
I paid $1,000 for his obituary in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel for the
Oh,
Sunday paper. That's when his mom wanted it. I'm like, okay, this could be
yeah.
like $300. And when I finished writing it and everything, I get $1,000 bill. It only cost 1,200 for his body to be removed from the house, burned, and then me to come pick it up. Like words in a newspaper almost cost more than that. So, anyways, we kind of knew he didn't want to be buried. He
Hmm.
apparently was a little claustrophobic, didn't like it when he had his MRIs, and his mom had said he had mentioned claustrophobia. So she goes, there's no way he would want to be in a coffin buried under the ground.
Hmm.
So we all decided yes, this is without him telling us. But, anyways, then we decided to give him his Viking funeral. And our plan, which we have not done yet, but my mother in law's brother made a Viking ship out of wood. He carved it and glued it and tested it in his bathtub. It is like more than 2 feet long. And he even researched the type of wood Vikings would use and how they built their ships. And he tried to stay as true to that as he possibly could. So it has like this dragon head with a big heart on the chest, and then like this little curly tail at the end. And I wish I could pick it up and show you right now, but it's
Yeah.
really neat. And then it has shields, which my mother-in-law and my girls painted yesterday. They were painting the shields, and they're going to paint designs on them, and they want it to look authentic. But the ultimate goal is to we live right next to Lake Michigan, and the ultimate goal is when no one's looking and the weather's good, to have my brother-in-law kayak it out a ways and set it on fire.
I love it.
And we're like, this thing's too cool to burn. But like, I'm also like, I also don't want to keep his ashes on my credenza for
Yeah.
10 years. He
Yeah.
would hate that. He'd be like, this is so stupid, like, why, like, I'm
Oh my
just
God.
ashes in a box, So we want to do it. His parents aren't the most like driven people. Like, they have ideas and they are working towards it. But like, when it comes down to actually doing it, I might have
Mhm.
to kind of nudge them a little bit. But I hope that it happens this summer.
I
We
love
just
it.
need a calm day. I know. And I'm like, and then no one gets arrested for
Hmm.
littering. But the area of Lake Michigan that we live is really like, there's just bluffs and then there's like
Hmm.
parkway along it. So you can walk along the beach for a long ways and not see anyone. So if
Hmm.
we pick just the right spot early in the morning, I don't think we'll have any problems at all. I'm
No,
just
it'd be
wondering
fine.
if it like sinks and then washes up somewhere down in Illinois. People are gonna be like, where the hell
What
is
is
this half
this?
burnt Viking ship?
You know what? Let him question it.
Yeah.
That's that's
Yep.
that's a
And
fun
Bill would
mystery
love
for
that
them.
too. He'd be like, great, make all the stories up that you want.
Oh God, I love it.
So, yeah.
So I have my husband's ashes in a whiskey bottle because
Huh?
it's where he'd want to be. But like I also actually here, this is I've got my travel Derek.
Is that your travel husband? Does it
Yeah,
have
that's
a
my
googly
travel
eyes
husband.
on it? Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
God.
I dropped him and he lost one.
Oh no.
But yeah, so
Oh.
this is I have, and it's so funny because like I went to the funeral home and the funeral director was actually a friend of my husband's, and like I got there and she's like we got a lot out of him, like a lot of ashes out of him, and I was like good.
Good?
Good? Why is that good? I don't know, but like
What does that even mean?
I know, right? It's like, but they're like, we got a lot out of him. I was like, oh, that's great. Um,
Well,
but so I have a big bottle that most of his ash is in. We made six of these little ones. So like, I have one, his best friend has one, his former roommate has one, his parents have one, the bar he worked at has one.
I
So
did
like
that
when I,
too. I have little mini, they're like
yeah,
eye cream jars, and
yep.
I've given them all of his best friends one so they can keep
Mhm.
it or scatter.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. I've scattered some. I have a tattoo that the tattoo artist like mixed some of his ashes in with it. So like
Yes,
he's like, and it's on my ass because it's it's again where he'd want to be. Like,
he loved your ass.
exactly, exactly. And like now he's there as long as I am. But like, so I have this big whiskey bottle of ashes, and I'm like, and at this point it's been 8 years. I'm remarried, and I'm like, do I hold on to these still? Like, would he want to be on the mantle? And I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
what do you do? And then what? And then when you're like dead, who's
yeah,
gonna take them?
right.
You mix them together?
I
Like,
mean, I've thought
so
about it.
my dad's remarried, and when my mom died, he got a headstone with both their names on it. He bought a double plot,
Hmm.
and then he got remarried, and he's like, I mean, what if I want to be married buried next to Patty too? And I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, Dad. You're gonna get cremated. We're gonna split you in half. Half of you goes with Patty, and half of you goes with Mom. And he's like, okay, that's that
Perfect.
sounds like a great plan. But yeah, I don't think I'd want my ashes just hanging out on someone's, you
I
know.
want to be. I want to be fireworks.
That would be cool. That'd be
You know,
really cool.
just have a party, blow me up,
Yeah,
call it good.
yeah. My ashes will fall into people's drinks and, whatever.
I guess I haven't thought it through that much, but
I'm just thinking of Fourth of July fireworks when they're too close and you've got like ashes in your hair and
yeah, yeah. Well, so we are coming close to time. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to share?
I feel like there's so much.
Mhm,
I don't know if I can tell you anything in particular.
mhm,
There's just there's so much that goes into it, different facets of it, friendships, some of
mhm,
my friendships are seem to be fading a little bit and it's really disappointing. And they're my friendships with like his best friend's wife. We were super close and she has three boys. And in her defense, she runs her own business, has three very busy children and a house and a husband and a
mhm.
life, but they were very present when Bill was sick. And they hardly reach out anymore. And I get it, but you kind of feel
Yeah.
like you're old news after a little while. In the beginning, I wanted people to leave me alone. I was like, leave me the fuck alone. I don't want to talk on the phone. I don't want to, like on my terms. So yeah, that's one thing I've noticed that I've been just kind of sad about where you feel like you need to put the effort in, but you're already putting to keep those relationships, but you're already
Mhm,
putting so much effort into so many other areas. Because now I do all the things with the kids. That's another thing. You are the go-to parent. There's no one to tap out when one of the kids is sick or being an asshole, like it's just you all the time. Most of the time I'm okay with it, but some days are exhausting.
mhm.
Weekends can be hard just because they're lonely. You message people, hey, what are you doing? And they're always doing something with their family. Oh, we are doing this and or we're taking the kids and so you kind of reach that point a year out, especially where it's old news. People think you're over it. In my case, I feel like I'm just starting to hit the hard part. I was nicely distracted for a while with that
Hmm.
relationship, but now
Yeah.
feels like back to square one.
And like, and I don't know about you, but like my experience was like that first year, I barely remember it. Like, I know I was in Chicago. I know
Mhm.
that I was working. I don't remember what I was working on. Like, I like there are moments that stick out that I have some clarity around, but for the most part, I'm like, I have no idea what was I doing that year?
Yeah.
Surviving.
Yeah, I changed jobs in July. I have worked with patients for 20 years, and now I'm working from home because it was easy for me and my kids. But now, and I like my new job, but I am a people person and I'm regretful. But I feel like the last, couple work moves and a lot of other moves that I've made were not my own decisions. They were decisions that I felt I had to make, not that I wanted to make. And so you feel stuck in a lot of ways too, doing things out of necessity instead of setting goals for yourself or doing things that you want to do. I'm 42. I feel like I should be like, if I want to go move to a different city or buy a home or whatever, I should just be able to do it. I should be with my husband and be able to make these decisions together. But now I'm like, I'm in a very affordable home next to my in-laws and the kids' school. It's
Mhm.
super convenient with a work from home job that doesn't really challenge me all that much and frankly kind of bores me to death. But I make more money than I did before. But some days the only people I talk to are my children. So I go through days where I don't talk to another adult and it's hard. You feel very stuck. Like I can't make a pivot in my life until, I'm not going to move from this house until I meet someone to
Move with.
coexist with because it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense financially, especially with the housing market the way it is right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just so much. Another thing I was irritated about with like the difference in grief, like my in-laws' grief, they lost a son, a
Hmm.
child, a family member, someone that is irreplaceable. I lost my husband and my children's father, who is irreplaceable, but I can find another husband. Their life changed in the sense that they miss their son and they don't get to see him anymore.
Hmm.
My life changed in the sense that I don't have a co-parent, I don't have a partner, I don't have my best friend, I
Hmm.
don't have a financial, my second half
Hmm.
financially, like as a widow, every aspect of your life changes. And that's how it's different. It's not worse, it's not better as far as grief goes, it's not easier, it's not harder, but it's significantly different.
Yeah, there's these practical aspects to it of like, the financial side, the co-parenting side, taxes,
Yeah.
like and making the decisions. I think that's another element to it is like, being the person making the medical decisions when they
Yes.
can't. And I don't think people always realize the weight of that.
Yeah. You're changing your emergency contact.
Oh, yeah.
They go, okay, is it still William? And this is the phone number. I'm like, William's deceased. And that phone number doesn't work anymore. And they go, oh, my
So know that.
condolences. And you're like, if I hear that one more time,
I'm
I'm
sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for your loss.
yes, it is the worst. But what else are you going to say?
Right?
I've,
There is
I've been
nothing else to
guilty.
say.
I've been guilty of saying it too. God, I'm so sorry. And then I go, I'm sorry for saying I'm sorry. I'll just go, I know that there's nothing when other people have losses. I just go, I know there's nothing I can say. So you're going through shit right now. And if you need anything, let me know. Or at least we can go through shit together.
Yeah. I remember in
Hmm.
the beginning, like everybody bringing me food, and I was like, I can't eat. Like, what are you doing? Like the
One of
number
my
of
daughters is
people.
gluten free. We got so much like lasagna. I'm like, no thanks. Thanks, but no. And half of it was not great. Or they give you
Yeah.
too much where you're like, I don't want to eat this for a week.
Right? I
It was
can't.
good the first 2 days, but I can't eat this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was giving food to people. I was just like, do you want this? Please take this. Eat this food. I don't have room for it. I don't want it. It's too much. My daughter can't eat it. And everyone, there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, and it's so well intentioned and it's so well meaning, but it's
It
also like
is.
when you're living through an experience where literally nothing is going to help and people try to help, it's just because
Yeah.
then you feel bad for like not for it not helping, but you know that's not your fault. Like it's so
Yep. Yeah, and you don't know, like you said, unless you go through it yourself, you have no clue
no,
what
like what
people
the
want or
reality
need.
of yeah.
What you need is someone to go, I'm coming over and raking your yard, and there's nothing you can do about it, or
Hmm.
whatever. Like you need people to just come over, not expect to have any contact,
Hmm.
and just do, and then go away.
Yep, that's
And
it.
did you run into this? I don't think I've written thank you cards to 90% of the people who helped us. Do you feel like that's something that's people are like, I did this and I didn't even get a thank you card? Or do you think it's just,
I think people understand, or at least I hope people understand. I had a very so my husband actually died 80 days after we got married.
oh
Like
my
it
God,
was, yeah, it was like the first time I signed my married name was in the hospital to like authorize dialysis. Like it was,
come on.
it sucked so bad. But like I remember a couple years ago, I found a box and like half of it were wedding cards and the other half were like sympathy
Sympathy.
cards. And I was just like, well, that's my marriage. Like,
Yeah, in a box.
yeah, there it is. And I don't think I never wrote any thank you. Like we had started writing the thank you notes for our wedding, and then he had the gall to die.
How did he pass?
It was some kind of infection that spread to his heart, and then he just
Oh,
got really sick really fast and like wouldn't go to the hospital.
oh, there's another thing. All the regrets and the what ifs. If
Yeah.
I would have just, and if we would have just, and if I would have just, and you can't change any of it, but it's hard not to do that to yourself.
Yeah. Especially in the beginning. Like,
Hmm.
I think the farther out you get, the more removed you get from it, and you're like, well, we did the best we could. But,
Yeah,
when you're still in that, like, those first couple weeks after, you're like, well, if we had gone to the hospital, would it be different? Like,
yep,
no
yep.
idea.
No clue and no way to know.
Yeah.
A lot of times I just throw it up to like what's meant to be is meant to be and just
Hmm.
kind of leave it at that. Because what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. I mean, there's nothing, especially now. Like, it
Mhm.
happened. It's done. So last thing, so the name of the podcast is Perks of Being a Widow. And so like my personal favorite is I now have a socially acceptable reason to hate Christmas. People ask me, why do you hate Christmas? I'm gonna be like, well, my husband died at New Year's. Boom.
Mhm.
But some people have said, they really know who their real true friends are now, and like that's a nice perk. Or like one woman said, like her husband always ran hot and she always ran cold, and so now she's like, I can set the thermostat where I want to. And so do you
Yeah.
have any perks of being a widow you'd like to share?
Gosh. I guess it's like yeah, yes and no. There was a while that I felt like I was walking on eggshells a lot in my own house. And there was also just that like frustration of the roller coaster of emotions. He often set the temperature in our relationship. And the fact that I'm not, holding my breath to see what we're doing today or what we're doing this week, or if I see a little, a little hint of like, oh shit, he might be coming into kind of like a bad mood again or whatever. Like I'm not dealing with that anymore.
Mhm.
And I think the perk for me is the option to have a second chance at love. If I had my choice, I would have him back.
Yeah.
And because you also realize all of the good things and that you overlooked and that you took for granted. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him, and I look forward to utilizing that in my next relationship, I guess.
Well, thank you for meeting with me and sharing your story with me. Yeah.
All right, have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks. You too. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you are interested in being on the podcast, please email me at avalon@perksofbeingawidow.com, or you can find me on social media on Instagram at perksofbeingawidow. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.